Listening to opinions from experts regarding issues relating to Malaysians and the citizens of the world when we go face-to-face with our guests. Every Thursday at 11:15 a.m. Only on TRAXXfm.
Experience the excitement. Right here on TRAXXfm.
Good morning. This is Trax Momentum with me, Diyana. We are currently on face-to-face on Trax Momentum, and more importantly, it is time for us to have a chat with our very, very special guest of the day. We're speaking to the Trustee of the Malaysia Unity Foundation, Tan Sri Lee Lam Thye, about Malaysia Madani. Thank you so much for joining me, Tan Sri. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, thank you, Diyana, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my views on this new concept of Malaysia Madani.
Anytime, Tan Sri. Okay, well, I suppose because I've heard you're going to have a very, very busy day, so we're not going to take up too much of your time. So let's just jump into the questions, okay? All right. So basically, the Prime Minister introduced the Malaysia Madani concept on January 19th at the Putrajaya International Convention Centre. And he said that the goal was to ensure everyone had a fair share of the economy and that public funds were spent wisely and fairly. And he also said that he wanted to see a country that cared about people and had values like fair, just and effective government. And how do you feel about this move?
Well, firstly, let me say that I'm not surprised by our newly elected Prime Minister coming up with this concept of Malaysia Madani or Masyarakat Madani. In fact, if we look back over the years, every Prime Minister that took office would normally come out with some ideas, with a concept of what he wanted Malaysia to be, And so after the recent general election, GU15, so Yang Amat Berhormat Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim came out with this idea of Malaysia Madani. Well, by and large, I think the purpose of this Madani aims to strive for a more humane and fair Malaysia. And of course, it is based, according to the Prime Minister, on certain core values, such as, for example, there are altogether 6 as far as I can gather. First one is sustainability. 2 is care and compassion. 3 is respect. 4 is innovation. 5 is prosperity. And 6 is trust. And he also spoke of an equitable economy as well as good governance, where the core values of ethics and morality are accepted and propagated by all. So I would say that these values are important. These values are in accordance with the aspirations of all Malaysians, and it is something that I believe that all Malaysia would like to see. For example, you talk about a humane and a fair Malaysia. Fairness, justice is something that is very much, in the mind and the hearts of all Malaysians, and this is what we have been aspiring to achieve, is it? But what is important to me, and it is something which I would like to speak very frankly, and that is we must not just make this this slogan, What is important is to ensure the implementation of the very core values which the Prime Minister has pointed out, So putting into practice these core values is of utmost importance to ensure that we are able to truly strive for Madani Malaysia, or Malaysia this Madani. So it is something that is not new. In fact, these very core values have been spoken about many a times. But what really is important is to what extent are we committed to these core values. To what extent are we prepared to do our part? And when I say doing our part, it is not only the Prime Minister, who has to do it, but more important, the Prime Minister must be able to rally the entire cabinet, all his cabinet ministers, the civil servants, of course, are very important, that they have to work together to ensure that these very, ideals that the Prime Minister has advocated will be achieved or realized.
All right, Thye, thank you so much for that. Now, the Madani concept, this is for the benefit of our listeners, again, to recap ourselves with this particular concept. It was part of a comprehensive strategic framework, and as Thye had mentioned, it is an acronym for a policy that has 6 core values. I'm going to say the Malay version as well as the English version. We've got Kemampanan, which is sustainability, Kesejahteraan, which is prosperity, Daya Cipta, which is innovation, Hormat, which is respect, Keyakinan, which is trust, and Ihsan, which is faith or compassion. Now, Thye, it shows that the unity government's plans considered the fact that the state of the world at the moment. But how do you feel about this idea?
Well, as far as I am concerned, speaking as a Malaysian, of course, I fully share, these core values. Because, in fact, I have been a strong advocate, for example, on issues like care and compassion. Respect, respect is so important. And what I'm talking about is, for example, in accordance with what has been, so clearly stated in the Rukun Negara, the 5 basic principles as contained in the Rukun Negara, like belief in God, loyalty to king and country, the supremacy of the constitution, the rule of law, and good behavior and morality. Now, these are the 5 basic the principles that have been enunciated under the Rukun Negara. And I think it is very important that when we talk about Malaysia Madani, I think we must also make a strong reference to the Rukun Negara, because these 5 basic fundamental principles under the Rukun Negara, I think must be aligned, to the core values of Malaysia, this Madani. So as I said, I'm all for it. I'm sure a majority of Malaysians, if not all, I think are certainly, looking forward, to give their support to this Malaysia Madani. But as I said, what really is important is this. I think is really a question of implementation, and we have got to monitor every stage of the implementation to ensure that there is no deviation, to ensure that the 6 core values, are fully realized. Although, of course, it takes time. You don't expect results overnight. After all, Rome is not built in a day. But I think, given the fact that this new government, unity government, has been given a mandate, for another 5 years, I think it is important that they must ensure that during this 5-year period, they will do the utmost best to ensure the realization of the 6 core values as contained in Malaysia Madani.
All right, Thye, how do you think it can adapt, like Malaysia Madani can adapt to the changes that are needed now in a post-COVID-19 world?
Well, there's no doubt that the whole world, has undergone major changes rising from, the end of this the pandemic, and I think it is something that we in Malaysia have got also to adapt to these changes. Well, I must say that we are now going into the new, just a normal, not the old normal, but the new normal. When I talk about the new normal, for example, I'm just talking about, the many changes that have taken place, since the occurrence of the pandemic, COVID, and so on. And we are now talking in things like working from home. We are talking about things like digitalization. This is in fact the digitalization this era. We are talking in terms of online. Work online. E-commerce and so many things. Everything is with the word E in. So I think this is a major change. That we have to adapt ourselves. And in fact, this is also part of my learning to the process, because I belong to the old school, as you know. I remember those days, when I was a member of Parliament. During my time, we don't have all these, Wi-Fi. We don't have all these electronic gadgets and so on. And I had to work with my typewriter. But if I were to bring along my typewriter out this today, I think people will just laugh at me. He said, you're out of date, and so on. So I think there's no doubt, that the pandemic, has really brought about a major change, I think all over the world. And I think this is a change which we have to adapt ourselves to. And I think it is a change that we have to make the necessary adjustment, because there's no other alternative. Now, as I said, we must be used to the new, just a normal. Mm-hmm. And of course, as I said, for the young generation, I think this is not an issue at all. But I think for the senior citizens in our country, there are many of them, as far as I know, who are now quite these are savvy, in all these things. But there are also many, who are not. But anyway, these are the changes that I think, and I think the government now, as you know very well, is emphasizing a lot on this. Digitalization, and I think a lot of activities, business, commerce, everything, is being digitalized, and this is the new the era that we are in.
Yes, definitely, Tan Sri. It kind of shows that you need to have the older generation and the younger generation to work together to make sure that we can adapt into this new normal and what we are experiencing. But Tan Sri, we're going to take a really, really quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Malaysia Madani, the idea, whether it is a good idea and whether it is a good time to introduce at this point of time. So we'll be right back. I'm speaking to Tan Sri Thye, the trustee of the Malaysia Unity Foundation. We're talking about Malaysia Madani. This is TRAXX Momentum Face to Face.
Experience the excitement right here on TRAXXfm.
Tune in to Face on TRAXX Momentum. Face to Face, every Thursday at 11:15 a.m. Face to Face, Face to Face, Face to Face, Thursday at 11:15 a.m.
Experience the excitement right here on TRAXXfm.
Welcome back to TRAXX Momentum with me, Diyana. It's Face to Face, and I'm still speaking to Tan Sri Thye, the trustee of the Malaysia Unity Foundation, and we're talking about Malaysia Madani. And welcome back, Tan Sri. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
Now, okay, we're going straight into the next question. Earlier on, we were asking, we wanted to prepare our listeners for this. Now, Tan Sri, is it a good idea and a good time to introduce the Malaysia Madani idea given the current economic and political situation?
Well, I think as far as the timing is concerned, I think it is not only a question of looking at the revival of the economy, but also we have to look at the issue of nation building. We have to look at the issue of building national unity. I think these are questions that also must be given consideration. But very frankly speaking, if we examine all the core values which I have mentioned, for example, like sustainability, which is defined as the ability to be able to maintain doing something, at a certain level. If you talk about care and compassion, which is defined as an act of displaying kindness and concern for others. If you talk about respect, which is defined as due regard for the feelings, the wishes or rights of others. If you talk about innovation, which refers to the new methods, new ideas, new plan, or new products, you see. If you talk in terms of prosperity, which is the state of being prosperous, which I think is very important. We want to make sure that we build a prosperous nation in the years to come. And then trust. Trust is absolutely very important. It's a question of reliability, truth, or ability of someone, to keep his word. And of course, along with it goes the question of this ethics, morality, and integrity. Now, these are all very important fundamental principles which are certainly very relevant for our country now. And so I would say that if we can ensure the compliance, if we can ensure the implementation, to make sure that we are able to have a good delivery, this system to deliver all these things, then I say this is actually the right time just to do it, because we have faced so many problems in the past, you see? And I think it is time, I think, for us to set ourselves anew. We have to move forward, and moving forward really means that we need a very strong commitment to the implementation of all these principles.
Plus, it's a holistic out view and way of living life, for that matter. It's like the basics, the standard basics the bare basics that we should all be practicing. All right, Tan Sri, when he introduced the Malaysia Madani concept, he said that our goal is not just to strengthen the economy, but also to make sure that the core values of ethics and morality that all religions accept and teach are practiced. Now, what does the Prime Minister mean when he says that these core values are essential for keeping the people together and making sure they do well?
Well, this is something which I talked about earlier, is the question of this national unity. Because at the end of the day, I think what really matters most, to all Malaysians, is whether we can build a united Malaysian nation, where there is no discrimination of any form, where there is justice, where there is fair play, for all. I think this is something that everyone wants to achieve. So I would also like to mention here that the issue of honesty, the issue of integrity must also be upheld at all times, because we have gone through a lot. We have faced so many issues and problems, I think, with regard to the problem of this integrity. And I'm indeed happy to note that the new government is, especially the Prime Minister himself, is giving so much emphasis on integrity, no corruption. And I think this is something which will enable us, to move forward. If we can ensure that we are going to have a strong administration based on ethics, on morality, no corruption, integrity, then I think we can move forward, to build a nation of what we want. And of course, the issue of that we are multiracial, we are multi-religious, multi-cultural. I think these are very important factors. These are the very things that we started from the very day when we achieved independence in 1957. This country is not a country that should be based on racial considerations, but it should be a country that is accepted by all these races. That we are multiracial, and we must ensure that this diversity, a country of diverse races, cultures, and religions, that this diversity should not be regarded as a weakness, but on the contrary, it should be regarded as our strength. So this is the reason why the Malaysia Unity Foundation has always been talking about unity in diversity, because this is the only way forward. And to do it, I think we must get everyone, every Malaysian to accept the fact that we have got to give due respect to one another, mutual respect for one another, whether it is in terms of race, religion, or this, whatever it is. There must be mutual respect. So the point I want to emphasize is this: that building a united nation is what we should finally achieve.
Thye, this is going to be a question that I hope we would love to listen to you answer as honestly as possible when it comes to where we stand as a country in terms of having the right core values. How much do we live by these values at the moment? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as I said, I think some of these values have been spoken about, a great deal in the past. But it's always a question of this sustenance, For example, I do not want to see, for example, that we are only good at this rhetoric, We keep on talking about these things, but actually we don't mean them. I think we must mean what we say. And we must say what we mean is very important. And I think as far as the practice of these core values are concerned, I think there is still a long way I think for us to go. Talking about those core values, talking about those very things that I've mentioned. I think we suffered a lot of these setbacks, over the previous years because of numerous these cases of corruption, lack of integrity. So I think if we are going to set ourselves, this target of achieving this Malaysia, this Madani, then I think we must be very serious about it. I think we must, as I said earlier, it's not only a question of the Prime Minister himself. It's a question of the entire cabinet. It's a question of the entire civil service. Everyone has a role to play, and of course Malaysians themselves, the NGOs, for example. And the NGOs, I'm sure they are very strong. These advocates, for justice, for fair play, for compassion, and so on, and many other things that they have. These are spoken about. So, as I said, just to these are summarized. As I said, well, I'm optimistic. As I said, despite the challenges that we are facing, and I think this optimism is grounded by the fact that we have got a reset, in our nation building plan. That we are certainly going to move forward, and a lot will have to depend, as I said, on our strong commitment to all these core values that we are talking about.
Right, Thye, this is it's great that you had mentioned we must mean what we say. We must say what we mean. Yeah. In fact, this is something that needs to be applied by everyone, as you had said earlier. When it comes to the government itself, whether it is civil servants and whatnot, and also more importantly the Malaysians. Now, before we go for a break, I do want to ask you, what can ensure that we as Malaysians, whether we are the older generation or even the young generation, how do we keep these good core values?
Well, as I said, as whether it is, the senior citizens or the young Malaysians, the young intellectuals, I think it's a question of why it's important that we must constantly remind ourselves about the future of our country, And if we can constantly remind ourselves that it is, in a final analysis, it is the people that make the nation great. It is very important. It's not just the government. It is the people, the entire the Malaysians, that are going to play a key role in making the country great. So as to whether, it's not a question of age, it's not a question of whether you're young or old, but I think every one of us must be able to embrace the right culture. We must be able to embrace the right values, and we must be able to do our own little part to implement these values. And if we can all do it, as one united the people, I'm sure we can look forward to a brighter future for all.
Well said, Thye. Okay, we're going to take another short break. We'll be right back. Now, remember, we are on TRAXXfm's Facebook page at TRAXXfm Official. I'm speaking to Tan Sri Lee Lam Thye, the Trustee of the Malaysia Unity Foundation. We're talking about Malaysia Madani. Be sure to keep in touch with us as well while you're at it, and we'll be back shortly on Face to Face.
Experience the excitement right here. Right here on TRAXXfm.
Tune in to Face on Trax Momentum. Face to face. Every Thursday at 11:15 a.m. Face to face. Thursday at 11:15 a.m.
Experience the excitement right here on TRAXXfm.
This is Trax Momentum with me, Diyana, and we are on Face to Face with Tan Sri Lee Lam Thye, the Trustee of the Malaysia Unity Foundation, talking about Malaysia Madani. Now, remember, we are also on Facebook at TRAXXfm Official. If you happen to have missed a little bit of the interview, but thank you again, Tan Sri, for joining us and for sharing with us your thoughts, and even your opinions on what Malaysia Madani is about and how we as Malaysians can come together to make this dream come true. But I think because we're running out of time as well, and you have such a busy day, we just want to ask you a couple more questions, if that's all right. Okay, Tan Sri?
Yeah, I think perhaps I should wind up by talking about my hopes for the future.
Fantastic. That's exactly what I was about to ask you as well.
Yeah. Well, if you ask me what are my hopes for the future of our beloved country, first, I must address the issue of the people, because as I said, people must come first. People must come first. This is very important. For the people, I would like to see young Malaysians, more and more young Malaysians, being well educated and socially connected, so as to take this nation forward and reach greater heights. Because after all, they are our future, and so we must invest heavily in the young generation and teach them our history and imbibe our values. On the question of this culture, I wish to see our warm and generous Malaysian culture continue to buttress a robust and a resilient this society. And I think, for example, as far as Malaysian culture is concerned, I think it is something that we have spoken a great deal. But I think one of the things that many foreign visitors who come to Malaysia, they always, when they see me, they always comment about Malaysian culture, and they always say that it's a lovely country to visit and so on. On the economy, I would like to see a more diversified economy, a strong banking system, and modern infrastructures for the nation to bounce back economically. Because this, after all, I think after 2.5 years of COVID, the people have suffered, the economy has suffered, and I think it's very important that we have to ensure that the economy is going to bounce back. And of course, all this, as I said, is also this related, I think, to the issue of good governance, to the issue of integrity, ethics, and morality. In order to gain the respect of the foreign investors who have plans to invest in Malaysia, build confidence, very important, building confidence. And as far as the professionals are concerned, we all know that we need the professionals, various professionals, to bring this country forward. And I think for them, I would like to see, for example, more the professional codes of conduct. I would like to see those codes stringently enforced. More professions must institute their own codes of conduct and adhere to them to prioritize the public. On the issue of natural resources, I wish to see our natural resources well protected and not wantonly destroyed. This is something that is related to the environment, for example. Look at the floods that have occurred in our country, the landslides and so on. I mean, all these are actually preventable, accidents. But unfortunately, due to a wanton destruction of the environment, as I said, I always say, we must make peace with the environment. If we don't make peace with the environment, we will all be in trouble. Education system, I would like to see an education system that emphasizes on the common values, the core values. I think that's very important. It's not a question of these academic, but how to teach each and every young Malaysian to be able, when they graduate, when they get a job, they must also realize the importance of contributing back to society, contribute back to the nation. And I think these are some of the things that I would like to share with TRAXXfm.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri. Okay, so we've run out of time, unfortunately. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners right now? Well,
the only thing I wish to say, make it short and simple. I'd like to wish all TRAXXfm listeners a happy Chinese New Year. As you know, this is part of the multiracial, the multicultural backup of a country. We always like to talk about this as celebrating, our these festivities. So I think it's only nice that I should wish, everyone a happy Chinese New Year. And I hope that make use of this Chinese New Year to invite all your friends, be together. I did the usual thing I always say, this is the way to build the friendship, building mutual respect for one another. And what is more important, all this will help to contribute towards mutual understanding, racial integration, and national unity. Thank you, TRAXXfm.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri. That was really well said. And happy Chinese New Year to you. I hope you had a fantastic celebration as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. There you have it. I was speaking to Tan Sri Thye, the trustee of the Malaysia Unity Foundation. We were talking about Malaysia Madani, and it was a very, very intensive. In fact, if you would like to listen to it again, if you missed the interview, you could catch us at TRAXXfm Official on Facebook. All right. But anyways, I will be back shortly. This is Trax Momentum's Face to Face.
Experience the excitement right here on TRAXXfm.
Hello, time on the clock is 11:52 a.m. That means we got the news coming up at 12. I'll be back again shortly with Mala, and we're going to talk about all sorts of things right here on Trax Momentum. Now, remember to stay in touch with us at TRAXXfm Official on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook if you'd like to catch our interview of the day on Face to Face. Otherwise, if you just want to say hello, feel free to do so. And remember to hashtag TRAXXfm every time you tweet.